Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Lake Placid Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Private Reserve's Lake Placid Blue, as it sounds and you would expect, is a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Retro 51 Tornado with a broad nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we look at the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. What we see is this is a true blue. Absolutely, there's nothing else in it. And it is not resistant. It flew up the paper. There's nothing left behind. It only starts getting a little bit darker, and then the blue stops. Now, the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it looks exactly the same. If there was not the little D on the top of that piece of filter paper, I would not be able to tell which one was which. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles it remarkably well. There is some spread that occurs. That extra fine becomes a bit more like a medium, but I can read everything that's there, which makes me feel okay using this in a note-taking situation if you're the person that likes to highlight. Water is completely reactivating and lifting it off the page. We see some of the white of the paper coming through and easily see the dots from the Rhodia dot pad, meaning to me that water is all you should ever need to remove this from your pen. Pen Flush did everything that water did and then some. It is mostly the white of the paper. It is gone, with the exception of that tiny little bit that's still there. Bleach, as you would expect, obliterates it. It's gone. Please don't use a bleach solution to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Lake Placid Blue has a viscosity of 1.97, making it a wetter ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on the Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Lake Placid Blue has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it a normal ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading. Like Placid, starts light, gets really dark, gets lighter again. So it does offer some shading intermittently with the 1.1. Now on the extra fine, we have no feather spread, halo sheen. We do have some shading. It's not as obvious in there. Not a lot of it. It's hard to find. It's there. You see it in brown, it's super dark, but then it's still dark. Just not super dark. Fox is dark and then super dark. So because it's not that, and I'm saying dark, this is a bright, vivid blue, but this is a thick ink. So it's harder to get those shade spots to come through because it's so thick. 10 seconds to dry. Or the medium, no feather spread, halo sheen, again, offers some shading. Obvious in brown, starts dark, gets lighter, gets dark again. The Fox, certain parts of it are lighter than others. Lazy is a lighter word than the word dog, but we don't have a ton of shading that really stands out as shading on this. Now on the scrubby for both the extra fine and the medium, it looks like there's a lot more color variation than we really do get. And the smear test, Excuse me. The smear test, you could likely recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So it's got that. Tomoe River. Now it started to bleed through in a scrubby, but that's where I'm putting it on stupid thick. Other than that, we have no bleeding. We do have ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. It's a basic blue that's vivid, but it's just blue. 18 seconds to dry. Sorry, the extra fine. Yeah, no. I lost myself. I'm going to back up. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is in the exact same tone, no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 18 seconds to dry. I don't know what happened, and I totally got lost right there. Medium, the exact same tone. So for this, it's very consistent, which is nice. A consistent color can be very nice to know what you're going to get. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 25 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it. And the smear test, you can't recover this. So we go to Rhodia. Now Rhodia gives us no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. And I see no shading. None. Extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have dark spots. So I'll call it some shading because the Q is a slight bit on the closed circle. The K is a little bit darker. The L in lazy is a little bit darker. So it's got spots. The X in fox is a little bit darker. It's got spots of shade, but not really shading. 11 seconds to dry. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen. It has no shading whatsoever. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine showed us some color variation. We did get some spots of color variation, but not a lot. The medium showed us none. We got none. The smear test says you could likely recover it. Monokaki. Shakaka. I don't know. I just think every time I try and say it, I think Ace Ventura with White Devil, White Devil, White Devil. Monokaki. I like the notebooks. I just can't pronounce them. We have no bleeding. We do have ghosting. That spot of bleed is me being an idiot doing a scrubby. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Slightly lighter tone when we go to the extra fine. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 8 seconds to dry. The medium, back to the darker tone that we got with the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 11 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. The smear test, you could likely recover it. What about TWSBI paper? Well, TWSBI paper gives us no bleeding, minor ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, no bleed. No feather, no spread. No halo, no sheen, no shade. Lighter tone, very light tone with the extra fine. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It looks a lot to me like a baby blue there. It's actually pretty nice. It's not too light to read. The medium, super dark blue. Not the same dark blue that we had with the 1.1. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade in there. 15 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine says we should get color variation, and we did not. The scrubby of the medium says we get none, and we got none. And the smear test, I don't think you could recover this if you smeared it. 20-pound copier paper. Ugh. Let's just turn that over and act like we didn't see that. Horrible. So yeah, you don't get to use two sides of the paper. And it does touch the page underneath. Especially with the medium. The medium has spread, it has feather, it has no halo, no sheen, no shade. The feathering's gross. It's spiderwebbed all over, out. Just, ew. That's an extra fine. It looks like a medium. So it has spread. It has feathering, but the feathering is really tiny and under control. So if you're going to write with an extra fine and you know that it's going to look about like a medium, so you write a little larger for that. This is not unmanageable. This is unmanageable.
The extra fine had no halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby showed us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And hey, look, you can't smear this ink. So it's got that going for it. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Lake Placid Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, the being in school all the time makes me want to put reds with blues a lot, so I chose Diamine's Brilliant Red. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Lake Placid Blue? I think this is a very nice basic blue that's just a little something uncommon about the color. Now, its flow, it feels thick to write with. So if you have a super dry pen, I'm not sure exactly. I didn't get to test this in that super dry pen, but I think the amount of stuff in this ink that makes it come out on the drier end of the viscosity would still have this ink working well in a dry pen. Thanks for watching.